There is no place in the world where you would expect more stories of grit, per vertical foot at least, than the upper reaches of Mount Everest. Such an unforgiving environment requires perseverance just to survive, much less reach the summit. You've probably heard many such stories, certainly the most famous ones. And so, Everest also happens to be an appropriate place to begin a book about the virtues of quitting. This Everest story is about three climbers you are likely unfamiliar with: Dr. Stuart Hutchison, Dr. John Taskey, and Lou Kosiski. They were part of a commercial guided expedition of Mount Everest, operated by Adventure Consultants, one of the most successful, highly regarded companies guiding climbers to the summit in the 1990s. Its expedition that year consisted of 3 guides, 8 climbing Sherpas, and 8 clients. It takes several weeks of intermediate climbs to acclimatize and move equipment up the mountain before, weather permitting, the expedition members at Camp 4 can attempt to reach the summit. Hutchison, Taskey, and Kosiski had become friendly and climbed together that year on the numerous treks between Base Camp at 17,600 feet and Camp 4 at 26,000 feet. Companies like Adventure Consultants had made it possible for relatively inexperienced climbers to reach the summit of the world's tallest mountain. All you needed was $70,000 to cover the costs, enough free time to spend several months in Nepal, and to be in good physical condition. This last requirement is, of course, no guarantee of success or safety. The air above 25,000 feet is too thin to sustain human life for an extended period. In addition, the average temperature during climbing season is minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit, or minus 26 degrees Celsius. Anybody who reaches the summit or gets anywhere high on the mountain must be capable of persevering in conditions most people could not handle. Back at base camp, the expedition leader had impressed on the clients the importance of having strictly observed turnaround times for each day's climb up the mountain as they ascended from the foot of Everest to each intermediate camp and ultimately to the summit. While at base camp, the expedition leader set the turnaround time on summit day at 1 p.m. A turnaround time is, simply put, the time at which climbers are to stop their ascent, even if they haven't yet reached their destination, and return to camp. Turnaround times are meant to protect climbers from putting themselves in danger on the descent, which requires more skill than ascending the mountain. Climbers on the descent can suffer from a combination of fatigue, oxygen deprivation, frostbite, changing weather, becoming lost or disoriented, falling into a crevasse, and darkness if they persist too long in their summit attempt. The darkness and fatigue multiply the likelihood of making a mistake and slipping on the narrow southeast ridge, where a misstep can cause you to fall 8,000 feet to your death into Tibet, or 12,000 feet to your death into Nepal. In fact, 8 times more people die on Everest on the way down than on the way up. No client makes the sacrifices needed to go to the top of Everest with the intent of stopping short of the summit, and the pull of the summit goes beyond the amateur climbers. Assistant expedition guides prove their ability by summiting Everest or doing it multiple times. Expedition leaders, competing with each other for business, market their successes in getting their clients to the top of the mountain. Sherpas aren't immune to the pull either. Their marketability and local standing are enhanced by summiting. Turnaround times are there to prevent people from making poor decisions to keep going when they're in the shadow of the summit, building into a climbing plan 3 crucial concepts. The first is that persistence is not always a virtue. Whether it is prudent to continue up the mountain depends both on the climbing conditions and the condition of the climbers. When those conditions warrant quitting, it is a good decision to heed those signals. The second is that making a plan for when to quit should be done long before you are facing the quitting decision. It recognizes, as Daniel Kahneman has pointed out, that the worst time to make a decision is when you're quote-unquote in it. On Everest, when the summit is within reach and you have sacrificed so much to be there, you are truly in it. That is when you will be the least fit to make a decision about whether to continue on or to quit. That is why turnaround times are set long before you are ever faced with that choice. Third, and perhaps most important, the turnaround time is a reminder that the real goal in climbing Everest is not to reach the summit. It is, understandably, the focus of enormous attention. But the ultimate goal, in the broadest, most realistic sense, is to return safely to the base of the mountain.